So once you have your beaded ring completed that you've made on a bead loom, you're going to want to sew the last 2 rows together. But first we have to get the piece off of the loom. So I am going to bring in my scissors and very carefully just go ahead and, got it, clip those ends. And now mind you, I want to show you something here. I still have my needle and thread attached. All right, so I didn't cut that off when I was finished with my loops. I wove back and forth through all of these rows, and then I put the needle and the thread to the side, so it's still attached. So what we want to do, and I'm always fascinated by whether or not this first attempt is going to work, but you can see, let me hold these up here because it's a little dark. You can see that the loop on these warp ends, it's still intact, right? Like it's not cut like the bottom ones here. So what I'm going to try to do for giggles is I'm going to, let me go sideways here. I'm going to bring in my flat nose pliers, and I'm going to see whether or not I can very carefully, oh, there it goes. Do you see it moving? So it's working. So I'm pulling this warp. I'm pulling this warp with my right hand. I've got my other hand really holding down on the loops because I don't want the beads to shift. So I'm really giving it some weight here. Holding it down. I'm pulling very slowly. Ah, the magic. Yay. Okay, so that one disappeared and we're happy about that. And now see this one, this might be a little, because I somehow, can I get that out of there? Let's see what happens. I don't believe it's going to work, but let's see for giggles. I'm going to grab this one. Yeah, see, they're all going to come. But what happens if I just kind of, nope. Let me come in here. So they're going to disappear a little, but they might not disappear enough. So I might be able to do that. But then I still have, what's going to happen here? Yeah, see, I have this knot, darn it. So that's interesting. So we'll have to come up with a different game plan. Yeah, because it's not gonna go. Do I have anything here? No. Okay. So we will come back to that. But on this end, you've got a couple different options now. So you have all these crazy warps. In the past, I have simply taken, and for instance, we'll do this. We can take these two and tie a knot. So I'm kind of giving you like a couple different ways to end here. And in all honesty, those are going well. So what I was going to say, and what I still will say, is that by all means, you could bring in another needle, right? Not the one you've got over there, but you could bring in another needle and you could rethread it, right? And then you could sew it into the beaded rows. That takes a little time, and because we're going to be sewing these two ends together, I feel like we can make those knots disappear. So let's just kind of, let's stay with that game plan. So I'm going to tie these two ends. However, I'm going to correct myself. Let's untie that guy really quick here, because let's bring this in. I'm not going to be able to get my fingers around those. So I need these to be, oh, what did I just do? I just made one of them disappear. Oh, well, thank you. I have no idea how I did that, but we're going to go with it. Oh, here it comes back. I see what happened. Okay, so basically I'm pulling these back out because I'm going to have to tie them since it didn't work to pull them through because of this knot right here. So I kind of got to give myself, am I going to be able to have enough? Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so we're going to stop right there and let's come back here. And again, we're just going to tie these ends together. This is like a little bit of a fumbleina process, but you get the gist of it, hopefully. Just going to tie it all together, and then let's tie this one. Okay. And I'm just doing two, and I'm being really careful not to pull too tight because again, I don't want to like have my project shift. Okay. I'm going to bringing in the big guns. Okay. I've got my wildfire burner, and I'm just going to very carefully here. I like to leave a tiny little tail, and then I very carefully just swoop on top of it to make like a little ball. So let's do that over here as well. And again, just kind of swooping down. You have to be, it just takes a little practice. I don't want to accidentally burn this one off. This is the one I want to use to sew my two ends together, so I have to be careful with that. So okay. All right, perfect. And then what we'll do is we'll come over here, and then I've got to tie these together. So I'm just cutting at, whoops, the loop there. And then we'll go ahead. I'm going to get rid of this crazy little spider looking thing. Okay. So, see, it's when you got to tie, it makes life a little easier, right? When you have a little bit more to grab onto. But I wanted to show you that it's possible to pull the ends, pull the warps and not have any, not having knots on both ends. But, we try things, we see what works. We know that we have options, right? So we just want to make sure in the end that our ring is nice and secure. It's one of my most favorite things to make are these rings. Okay, so then I'm going to go back in with the wildfire burner. Okay, and we will close that. All right, so let's get rid of all these stragglers so that I don't pick them up. Okay, so now we have the making of our ring, right? So we have to bring these two ends together. And so I'm going to grab my needle, and I'm going to get all these tools out of the way. And I'm going to come through this row. So we're literally sewing the two last rows, right? Like one of them was our first and one of them was our last, but now they're coming together. Let me make sure, stay in that camera. And then I'm just helping to guide the wildfire. And so see how that comes together. And then we're going to come back through. Oops. So I just want to be patient with this process. And pull it together. Awesome. So that's our first stitch. Okay. And so I'm going back through, and I'll do this a couple of times. Because I really want to make sure that it's nice and strong. Okay. And So these are size O seed beads. It would be very close to impossible to get it through an 11-0. So we always make the base of our beaded rings with 8-0s. So now what I'm doing is I'm just going back through the rows, because it doesn't hurt to, you know, add more wildfire. And so we'll just go back a couple of rows, and then I'll work my way towards the other side. And by all means, if you wanted to come in with like a little dab of hypo cement or whatever your favorite jewelry glue is, just making sure that it's one that dries clear, you could put little dabs where the two rows met. It's getting a little tight on that one row there because we've gone back and forth a couple of times. And it's all up to you. Like if you feel like your band is a little loose and you just want to go through all the rows that you can, then by all means, if you've got the wildfire left over, you know, to keep doing that, then it won't hurt. Okay, whoops. And so then I'll start working my way back. Yep, so just some stitching here. And let's see. Oh, that, whoa. you can feel your first row coming because it's starting to get really tight. I'm just checking it out, seeing what's going on here. And I'm gonna come back a couple more rows and then, whoops. And let's see. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I wanna like tie off on one of the warps. So here I'm gonna come through the first bead. Let's go through the second bead and then out and in between that second and third. And then I'm just going to take the needle and come under the warp. Okay, and then I'll come back through that loop because I'm making a knot. And I'll be able to hide that. Nice. And then I'll take the needle and thread, push it to the back so that the knot follows. Okay, and very, very, very carefully, I'm going to use the wildfire burner. Okay, cool. I think it's all good. Let's see what happens. Which ring did it fit? Oh, I'm a little puffy right now. Let's see if it'll fit my ring. Oh, it does. See, it's so funny, our bodies. Isn't that great? Oh my goodness, look at. Let me stand up and see if I can't really get a nice. Oh my gosh. I love this so much. I love it, I love it, I love it. It's so funny. I'll go get in my ring drawer and I'm like, wait a minute, why don't I have a brown colored copper yummy ring in my stash? It's like I've got all these blues and greens and pinks. So this is going to get worn a lot. How much fun. Oh boy, I am really puffy monster. Isn't this great? Look at how fun. So yeah, look how nice and clean. Very cool. And again, if you wanted to, you could just go in. Sometimes too, I'll bring my needle in and I'll just kind of squish things. If I see that one of the knots is up, but really with the dark colors, you can't see much. But you know, for giggles, you could definitely put like a little hypo cement or even a little white glue. Again, whatever it is, just make sure that it dries clear. So very groovy. So excited. Fun. Hope you enjoyed this, and I can't wait to see the rings that you make.